So I'll say, hi everyone, my name's Hannah Collison from Inspired Creations. Just recording the elephant. This is the little character that we're going to be making. And if you'd like to work alongside, then we've got the kit list here. And if you've got any questions, simply email me on hannah@inspiredcreations.uk.com. I'll just show you a picture of the projects and then we'll get cracking. Here he is, the little elephant. Okay, let's make a start. And I think we've got about 150 grams of grey paste. And at the moment, I waited to put the CMC in because I wanted to talk you through that, because not everybody knows how to put how much CMC to put in. So I've just got that here. If you're not sure what this is, it's a powder, it's a chemical. CMC are the initials of the chemical that's in here. It's man-made. Tylose powder is actually a brand name. It can also be known as gum tragacanth, which is the original version of sap from a tree. But the CMC will help the paste firm up. So it just makes it a little bit easier to work with. It's not so soft and sticky. And your shapes that you make should hold, and the character it should hold. Okay, so I've got probably, all told, about a third of a teaspoon, flattened teaspoon of CMC going in there. So it's not a huge amount. And that's just going into the middle. So some of you will have already done this. If you haven't, then if you can go ahead and do that for me now. To mix, I keep it over the surface. And you'll find that it will start to kind of shred, look a little bit like puff pastry. And then as you twist, it will come together. You won't find that it will react straight away. It takes about 10 minutes. And depending on how hot or humid, well, I must say more how humid it is outside, so how damp it is outside, has a bearing on how much CMC you want to put in. And also if you've put a heavy amount of colour or a hot colour like pink or red or black or brown, you'll find you might need a little bit more than if it's a cold colour like green or purple or blue. So I'm just twisting this to get it nicely mixed up. And then if I roll this into a sausage, we've got quite a minimal amount of tools for this. So if you happen to have a knife, you can actually use a knife to cut this, but otherwise just roughly twist it into 3 pieces. One's going to be for the body, the other's going to be for the limbs, and the other for the head. Okay, so you'll be able to make sure that you've got enough paste for everything. You might have a little bit left over at the end. You can make a little diddy elephant with that. So if you haven't, I haven't broken them in even sizes. I'm going to use probably, let's just put a bit more on there. I'm going to use my smallest piece for the body. And if I just roll that into a ball for you, you can see that runs through here at about 4 centimetre diameter. Okay, the other 2 are going to go in the plastic bag just so they're not going to dry out. So I've got them in a freezer bag. Just drop them in there so they don't dry out while you're waiting to use them. So to warm the paste up, we want to give the paste a good twist, squeeze. So it's going to feel sticky because the CMC or Tylose powder won't have started to react just yet. You'll probably notice it once you start to make the limbs. So once you've twisted and squeezed, that squishes the air out. Just put it between your palms and try and roll, but really tight. So you end up with a bit of a spinning top. But what you're trying to do is kind of get all the air out. Okay. So we just gradually then release the pressure between your palms, and that should reveal a fairly crack-free ball. If it is a little bit cracked, just run your finger across the crack and then go back to the rolling stage. If you've still got cracks in there, then you might have to go back to the twisting and squidging stage. So this ball now is going to get formed into a cone shape. So I'm going to use this part of my hand. I'll call this a chicken drumstick. It's this part here is fantastic for modeling. Just press that onto half of the ball and then start to roll sideways. I like to put it in my palm, and I'm left-handed, so if you're right-handed, you might be working this way, just whichever way is more comfortable. And then we're just pressing down, more so on this side. If you notice, my wrist is, or my hand's kind of bent at the wrist up a little bit rather than straight. This makes sausages and this makes cones. Okay, so on there, and just press down to get yourself a nice cone with a little bit of a point on there. I haven't mixed my colour in. I've got a bit of a marbly elephant body. And then when I'm looking at that, the width of the bottom fat part is about 3.5 centimetres roughly. Don't be too precise. And the length is about 6 centimetres. I'm going to take a cocktail stick and we're going to make a few indentations because elephants are a bit wrinkly. So I'm just going to put my cocktail stick flat onto the surface, just kind of about halfway, and just rock the cocktail stick so that you get a couple little marks in there, just to make it look like his tummy is creased. Okay. The useful thing about setting him on a cake dummy or something like this, polystyrene disc, is that you can push your support for the head through into the dummy, and when he's good to store, and then when you're ready to take the elephant off to put it onto your cake, then you're going to have a bit of either cocktail stick, kebab stick or spaghetti stick sticking out of his bottom, and that can then be pushed into the cake so he's a little bit more secure. But it doesn't matter, you can use just a board, and then if you don't want it to stick to the board, you can just dust it lightly with corn flour. And then when you're ready to position it on the cake, you could just take a little bit of your paste, your grey paste, mix it with some of your edible sugar glue, and that you could just paint onto his bottom, and that should be enough to hold him. Now, the next thing we're going to do is actually position our body onto our board or Oasis. If you're using the cake dummy, make sure that you open up the hole where the kebab stick or cocktail stick or spaghetti stick is going to go through, because you don't want to have resistance, otherwise you're not going to be able to get it off easily without damaging your model. I'm just going to pop him directly on top of my surface, my board, and we're going to do a bit more preparation to this before we move on. Okay, so I'm just changing view so you can see. What I want to do is actually bring my 2 pointing fingers and press in a little bit, just either side, but towards the front here, to create 2 indentations ready for his legs to fit in. That's for his back legs. And then if you want to, you can make him a little belly button using your cocktail stick or the end of your spaghetti stick. So we just push that in, not too far, and then just rock up and down, and that'll give you a nice belly button. That's actually going to be hidden behind his front legs, but it's a good little indication of where you're going to put them. And then if I turn him round, we want just a little tail hole. So I'm going to push that stick back into the back, his back, and then we'll kind of go round to open up a bit of a hole. Okay, so he's sitting upright. He's got his indents and he's got his belly button and tail hole. So before we make the legs, paint a little bit of glue on either side of where you've put those indentations. We want that to start to soak into the body, and it will make it tacky. So it should hold the legs almost immediately rather than them slipping off. And while I'm there, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue into his tail hole. Now, the spaghetti is to stabilize the body and hold the head on. So you could use a cocktail stick, a little bit, I think it might be a little bit low, a little bit short. The spaghetti I like to use is linguine, which is more of like, it's kind of a flattish oval rather than rounded, and I just find this is a little bit more robust than the cheap spaghetti, but if you get the thick spaghetti then you're fine as well. But this actually makes nice belly buttons and it's quite good to support. So I don't need this full length, I'm just going to break it a little bit so you can see on screen. For the moment I've just got a shorter length, and we're going to push that through from the center of the top of his body down. I'm just going to locate the hole in my dummy and then push it through till it hits the bottom. So if you're working on a board, just make sure it hits the board. And here we only want that to be about 1 centimetre tall. So this is possibly a little bit too tall. So I'm just going to support the spaghetti stick, the area that I want to keep, and then just pull off the excess. So for me, that's just going to be a small amount. Just make sure as well that your spaghetti stick at all angles looks upright. If it's leaning front, back, or left, right, then remove the stick, position it upright and push back down again rather than just trying to yank it, because we don't want to open up the hole in the middle. Okay, so it's about 1 centimetre at the top showing. What you'll find is if this is too high, tomorrow, once he's dry, gravity would have made him slump a little bit and he might have a pimple sticking out the top of his head. Then move him out of the way, and we're going to take the second bit of our paste. Now we probably won't use all of this for the limbs, but it's good to know that we've got enough. And we're going to take probably a 2 centimetre ball. So let me just measure that out by hand and then I'll see. Yes, a 2 centimetre ball. And that we're going to make another ball exactly the same size. So if you're working on a scale, the body was about 45 grams, and this is going to be about 10 grams, maximum 9 grams actually. You don't want to go overboard with this, 9 or 10 grams. So it should fit within the 2 centimetre diameter on the ruler. And if you just match the ball, so you've got 2 legs the same size, so that way he won't limp. Okay, and we'll just put the excess paste into a bag so it's not drying out. Now, I'm just going to show you how to prepare one of these. So we're going to twist it, squeeze it, warming up in the same way, rolling tight between your palms, and then relax the pressure to release it into a ball shape. And we're going to go back to the heel of our hand here and just position that onto one half of the ball and roll either side, just pressing down more at the back end. So at the bottom here. We want a fat ball, okay? Fat cone, sorry, not fat ball. Now, once you've got it to this size, you want to upturn it. So put the fat side down onto the surface and then press to flatten, because elephants have got like paddy flat foot. And then if you pick it back up, you've got a nice flat surface at the base, and you might be a bit wrinkly here. So just go back with your hand and just roll that so it neatens a little bit. So we've got this nice flat base. And you're going to do the same with the other leg as well. So just to finish off the 2 back legs, we want to make some crease marks. So I'm going to use my cocktail stick and push in just a couple of marks, because they are very creased, aren't they, elephants? So we'll just do a couple more on this one. So again, I'm just pressing flat and rocking, not poking with this with the tip. It's just the main part of the stick that I'm using. And they can go, you've already glued on either side of your body. And at the same stage now, we can actually make some marks. You could use your spaghetti for this if you wanted to, just 3 marks, or you could use your cocktail stick just to make just a little round opening for the toes. There's a couple of options there, whichever way you prefer. The next thing to do is make the front legs. So we're going to have a similar amount of paste. So it should kind of roll between the 2 centimetre mark. Again, if you're using a set of scales, it's probably about 7 grams. And then once you've got one ball, just by eye match it. So if you need to, you can add a bit more. Okay, so that should be about right. Take one of the balls, give it a good twist, squidge, roll it between your palms. And then this time we've got to make like a slightly narrower cone, so it's more elongated. So using the same technique, this part of your hand, rolling to extend. So it's nice and long, not too thin. So if we're measuring that, it's about 4.5 centimeters long, and at the widest point, it's just over a centimeter and a half. And then, as before, we're going to drop it down onto the surface and press and turn. So that's flattening the base. So that's the same as we did for the back legs, and the back legs just has slightly more paste. Okay, and put it back in your palm. Just give it another roll so that it neatens it up. Now this has got markings on it as well. I'll just change the view again so you can see. So we've got one mark across the bottom there. And then I like to do something that looks a little bit like a knee, but coming into the center. So it's a bit of a crease. And if I was making a sleeve, if I turn it like this, you can see it looks like a sleeve. Or it could also look like a pair of trousers as well. And this is the back of the knee, the front being here. So it's the same kind of technique. So we can put that one down and make the other one. So into a ball, warm it up. Modeling's all about getting clean finishes. So everything that's clean coloured and crack free. That's the aim. So put that down so it's sitting upright on the surface. And then press so that you flatten the base. And that can go back on your palm to just neaten out any finger marks that you've put on there. And you're ready to mark. So I'm just putting that nice and flat on the surface. Just roll. And this time, if you notice on the other one, we've got the indentations on this side. So I'm going to do the indentations on the opposite side. So when you put them together, as you look at them, this will be on the left, that on the right. And those 2 legs, we can position. Now, normally I glue before I start a piece. So I should have put my glue on before I actually started to make my front legs. It does make it easier because it soaks in and makes it tacky. But hopefully these won't come off. So we're just going to transfer the 2 legs that we've made so that they sit in between. If you need to, you can move your back legs out of the way slightly just to adjust the front ones and then bring the back ones back in. So they're kind of all in line and just touching. And these have got little toe holes as well. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue. So it's just the sugar glue, which is the CMC mixed with water, just a pinch of CMC into maybe an egg cup's worth of water. It just rehydrates over a couple of hours and then you get a clear glue. So a little bit of glue just around the stick. I avoid painting the stick with the glue because I don't want to melt the inside of the head. And then we can make the tail, and we'll do that now because we've got a little, this is our spare from the limbs. And all we want is just a small quantity. So I'm just going to take maybe about 0.75 of a centimetre, just a pea size, and we'll give that a little warm up and then roll it into a ball. Make sure it's crack free, and then just use your finger to run across the center, and then you can roll to the one side, to the right, and then again to the left, and you just keep rolling until you've got the thickness you want, because you can always shorten it. You just don't want it really stumpy. Elephants have only got shortish tails, and I want to keep this rounded at both ends, so try not to go off the edge, just try and stay within. Now when I'm looking at that measurement wise, it's going to be length, this is about 3 centimeters, but the width is only maybe 4 mil. It's not big. Okay, and we've got the hole in the tail already here. We've put some glue. If you haven't already glued it, put some glue on now, and then we can just stick the tail in. And a little bit later on, we're going to make, with the dark grey, we've got a little cone to put on as the little tuft at the end, but that we'll make later. So the head's about 3 centimetre diameter, and if you're measuring it, about 25 grams, if you want to do a weight. It's always good to try and do the sizing yourself, because otherwise you're very restricted to what you can make. But the best thing to do is actually start by making a rough head, and then you can just kind of hold it up against the body and decide, well, is that going to be big enough? And if you feel like you want to make it a bit larger, you can. But just bear in mind that you've got quite a few features. You've got the ears, the muzzle, so not the muzzle, the trunk and the cheeks going on. So what looks like it's small now will possibly be quite, exactly the right size when you're finished. So warm the paste up so you've got it nice and crack free. You're probably feeling by now that the CMC is reacting, so your paste is a bit firmer, a bit more comfortable to work with. And then again, we're going to roll the shape a little bit like we did the body. So I don't want something that's too long, but I want it to be a little bit cone shaped or like an egg. Okay, and then we've got 3 centimeters wide at the widest point down the bottom, and the more narrow part is going to be the head, the top of the head. Lengthwise, 3.5 centimeters just over. And once you're happy with the size of your head, that's going to go onto the model. Now, when you do this, just make sure that it's going in upright. Okay, so if you drop it on, and if you notice that the head is kind of leaning backwards or forwards a little bit, rather than tweak it, it's better to take it off, adjust it, and push it back down again, so that you don't open up the head or weaken the support in the body. So just check it from all angles and make sure that it's okay. Later on, if you find that by putting the extra features on, it starts to pull the head backwards, it probably won't in this instance because we've got quite a lot going on the front. But if that's happening and you've got a leaning back elephant, when you're done, when you've made him and you're leaving him overnight to dry, if you get a mug that's got like an angle to it, so it's wider at the top, and just position that up against the head in an area, avoiding the tail, then he will lean against that and stay upright while he's setting. I did always used to wonder why, when I'm making figures, the eyes would be looking towards the window or the wall, and then in the morning the eyes would be up to the ceiling, and I'd wonder why. And it's because possibly the way I was positioning the head was just a little bit leaning back and I had no support behind it. So as it was drying, it was gradually falling. And as a result, the eyes were looking at the ceiling. So having realised my mistake, I could adjust it by putting a support behind it or changing the angle of the head. So to make the frown, we're just going to support the back of the head and use the cocktail stick just to rock and press. I'm just pressing a little indentation into his head. Okay. And then we can take the cocktail stick and make the indents for the ears. Now this is really strange how I do this because we do need an opening. We kind of need a bit of a step. So you need to support the head. Take your cocktail stick at an angle. The pointy end here is going to dig in where the top of the ear is. As you can see on here, the top of the ear. Oh, that's about to come off. The top of the ear. So start to press in, and then as you're pressing in and pulling down, make the stick turn horizontal. So if I show you what I did was I started like this and I'm pressing in, dig, dig, dig down and horizontal, and then come back, wiggle it side to side to open that slit up. Okay, so to open it, once I'm down here, I've just gone left to right, not majorly, but just enough to be able to insert some glue, and that's a good opening. Only part of the ear goes into it, just a bit of paste, but it's good to have something rather than just try and stick it on the outside of the head, so it's less likely to fall off. So we need to do the same on the other side. So holding the cocktail stick at an angle, starting at where you want the top of the ear to be, press down, and as you reach the bottom, keep pressing so that you end up with a horizontal stick in his ear. In effect, what you're doing is creating an L shape inside, and then you want to go backwards and forwards to open up that hole. Just check that your head is still upright. So the glue is going to help support the ear, but we want to make sure we've got a decent amount in that hole you've made. Just go all the way in and then just around that lip on the outside. Do the same with the other one. And that way, because we're going to do the trunk and the cheeks next, it's got a good chance of being lovely and tacky and holding this on, holding the ears on. So once you've worked a decent amount of glue into the ear holes, then you can paint some glue across the bottom half where his nose, so his trunk and his cheeks are going to go. So you can see where I'm painting that, just wiping across his mouth, because we really want that to get a bit tacky as well. What we're going to do now is make the trunk, and then we put the cheeks on. Okay, so the trunk, we can go back to some of our paste that we've got here, and it's made in the same way as you make the front legs. So I'm going to take a little piece of paste here, and it's going to be about 2 centimeters. It fits comfortably into 2 centimeters on the ruler. And if you want a quantity there, 6 grams, no more, 6 grams. Okay. So give that warm up. Of course, there's only one trunk, so we don't need to match the ball size now. So into a ball, into an elongated cone, the same as you made the leg. If you want his nose bigger, then you can make it larger if you want to. And then we're going to drop that down onto the surface. And like we did before, press down on the base. And pop it back in your palm just to roll again, just to neaten it off. So we've got like one of the front legs. Now it's got some marks on it. So the first thing we can do is actually put some nostrils in. So I'm going to pick it up. So the flat end is going to be the nostril end. And if you use your spaghetti stick or your cocktail stick, if you're using the cocktail stick, then what you would do is push in and rock up and down. That will give you a nostril. Or if you've got something like linguine, gives you a fantastic oval shape. Look at that. So next time you're in the supermarket. And then looks like a pig's nose, doesn't it? It's certainly how you'd make a pig's nose. We want to put some marks in here, so I'm just going to start by creating a couple of indents at the base of the trunk, and then a couple more here near the bridge of his nose. And when you're ready to stick that on, I'm just going to change the angle so you can see. We start by positioning it near the top of where we glued, and then just kind of ease it into the crease here. So just very gently without misshaping it, and then let it sit on top of the front legs. And that trunk, if you've got a little trunk, it means it's a young elephant. Of course, if it's a big trunk, it's more mature. And as you can see in the background, I've lost an ear. Just fix that with a bit of glue. I'm just going to show you how to make the cheeks now. And we're going to work with 2 balls of paste the same size. I'll give you a size guide for that. I like big cheeks. So we've got something that's about 1.5 centimetres. It's probably not going to register, so a bit blurry. I'll just reset. Yeah, 1.5 centimetres. It probably won't register on the scales, but we'll give it a go. Nearly 3 grams, just under. Okay. So give that a twist. Nice warm up. Warm both balls up because we're going to attach them at the same time. It's easier. Okay, I think I've got one cheek larger than the other, so I'm just going to put a bit more on this one. And then to attach, so we attach using, they go on as balls, but they become cone shapes as you press them. So we do this, just bring this into shot for you. Put one either side of the trunk, and then finger and thumb just support the back so that it doesn't push the head back too much, but you're pressing down the bottom here towards the trunk, and then with your thumb run a press all the way around. This is just to make sure that it sticks onto the glue, and of course because we've already glued it, it should hold. So we're not trying, we're going for a rounded shape, not a chocolate button. If I give you the profile on there, you'll see what I mean. Sometimes they do move, so you might just have to readjust. I'm just going to press in a bit more there because I feel like it's too cone-like. We're going to make the ears, and the ears are not, they're only made from a small piece of paste. We don't make them too big. We call him an Indian elephant because he's got smaller ears. And that's just from a safety point of view, because they do have a tendency to fall off if they're too heavy. So my suggestion is 1.5 centimetres diameter, 2 balls the same size, and weight wise that's about 2.5 grams, but you know, I would go max 3 grams, but even that's pushing it. Okay, so once you've got one of the ball sizes measured, so 2.5 centimeters, what did we say, 1.5 centimeters, and then match your ball, warm that up, and roll it into a cone shape. Now, if you find it difficult to do that with the palm because it's small, then you can actually just pick it up and pinch on one side. Okay, and then for this, I might just put a little bit of corn flour on my hands just to dry them off so that it doesn't stick, because I want to flatten it now. Put a little bit of corn flour on my finger as well, just so that it doesn't stick. So I'm going to press and then take it in both fingers, sets of fingers, and start to flatten out. Don't make it too thin. If you find as well that it starts to crack around the edge, you might want to re-warm it up. Okay, so it's not thin. If it's thin, it will flop. So all told, it's about 3 centimeters long, and width-wise about 2.5 centimeters. So we'll take the other one and do the same. We're going to stick these both on at the same time. Now you could, if you found that your paste is a little bit floppier than you want it to be, you could actually dunk these in the CMC. So what I mean by that is you can just take the piece of paste and pick up some CMC. You don't have to, but if you feel like it's going to cause you a problem, that way you've just got a minimal amount of CMC in there, but work with it straight away and shape it straight away. Because if you've overdone the CMC, you don't want the paste to seize. At least this way you've made your shape and it's already starting to set. So combine the CMC into the paste and roll your fat cone. Press to flatten slightly. If you notice cracks at this stage, you need to re-roll it. And then we're just flattening out. Adding too much CMC will add cracks to your paste as well. It's a bit funny. But my other ear felt a little bit soft. This one's definitely firmer. Okay. You want them to be roughly the same size. And to attach them, I'll just show you how. We're going to take hold of the 2 ears with the pointy end uppermost. Start by positioning the pointy end at the top of that groove that you've made. Press firmly and hold just for a few seconds, and then come down a little bit more. Just push a fraction of that paste into the hole that you've made, and then you can just shape the ears. I'm just running my thumb inside just to cut them just a little bit. Make sure they're on. Without the indentations, it would be very likely for the ears to drop off almost straight away. This way, at least, some of the paste has gone in there, and the glue that you've put in there is sucking on and holding the ears in place. So 2 marks just above and either side for the eyes. I've just used the cocktail stick for that. You could use the spaghetti stick if you wanted to. And we're going to put some glue in there already. So you've got eye whites to go on in a minute, but I just want to get a little bit of glue going on there. And while I've got the brush, I'm going to just put a tiny bit of glue into those nail holes. So you have a choice here. You can leave the nail holes as holes, or you can fill them with the dark grey. I'm going to fill mine with dark grey. Just get a bit of glue on there. You could also put just a little bit of glue right at the end of the tail. Just be mindful as well, though, if you're taking it off the surface of the board or off a cake dummy, then it's quite possible the tail will break off. So you might need to keep some paste spare for that if you need to remake it when you put the model on the cake. And I've got some dark grey in here. I've done all the grey. We've used all the grey, the normal grey that we've been using to make the elephant. So we've finished with that. But now I'm going to work with some dark grey for the toenails and the tail and the pads. We need to put some glue on the flat parts of the feet as well so that we can get some pads on. I forgot that, sorry. And for this next bit, what we're going to do is just warm up the dark grey and take off probably 0.5 centimetres, like a pip, blackberry pip, 0.5 centimetre just under of paste. This is for the pads for the feet. Just turn this around so you can, oh, I don't know if you can read that, hopefully you can. So just 0.5 centimetre. And then just make sure they're warmed up, because otherwise when you press them, they're going to crack. So just put that in my palm. Press quite firmly. You notice it's stuck. So what we need to do is get rid of the excess paste that I've got on my hand already. If we put a bit of corn flour on there. Press, flatten. Create a little disc, and then if you pull that off your finger and position it in the center of where you've glued your foot, and just press that into place. Just watch out that you don't pick up too much moisture from there. We don't want it to bleed. And then we do the second one, same, press to flatten. So peel it off as a small disc, and then you enlarge it a little bit more once it's on. The grey, we're still using the grey, and all we want to do is just take a small amount and then bring that to a point. This is how you get small pieces off the paste. So bring it to a point, pinch the end, pull off a small amount, roll it between your finger and thumb. If you struggle to roll between your finger and thumb, then drop it onto your palm and just roll using your finger. Okay, try not to flatten it. So what we need to do is roll. Basically, we've got 12 balls, haven't we? But maybe do them in 6s. So do the 6 for the back legs first, because as you roll them, it's all right if they're not all even sizes, because what you can do is then put them in a bit of a size order and have it so that you've got the largest ball on the inside, like a big toe. And with these, oh, you can't see these, sorry. Let's just get them in play. So I'm going to pick up my largest one, which is this one, but I can actually just press it with my finger. And then I'm going to position it onto my toe hole. And just while I do it, I'm going to just pinch with my thumb to get that on there and a little bit flatter. So it's actually more of a wedge shape or toenail shape than just a ball stuck on. Okay, so I'll just do another one. So if you've got different size balls, start with the biggest one in the middle. So pick that up, press it on, and then just squeeze with your thumb a little bit so that you get a toenail look. It's more of a wedge shape or a claw shape. Now I know in real life that elephants have got kind of ivory coloured toes, but mine aren't, they're dark. Okay, the last, the little ones. You've got small ones on the outside, like a little toe. We'll do the same again with the other side. If your hands get a bit sticky, then just dry them off. You can just drop them on if you prefer. It's actually harder to do the middle ones. So we'll do the same thing again, similar sizes for the front legs. If you feel like they're getting a bit big, then just carry on making, because you can always bring the ones you don't use back together and into a ball, store for another time. I feel like these are all coming out a bit big. You could use sugar pearls. We're going to do it. I'll show you those for the eyes. But you could use sugar pearls if you wanted to, but they'll be black. So these ones are a little bit harder to stick on, so you might just have to just pick them up and push them on with your thumb. For the tail, I've got 1/2 centimetre of the dark grey, and we want to warm that up into a nice crack-free ball again. And then if you just run your finger, so take your finger on one side and roll backwards and forwards to create a cone shape. I make my noses like this for things like the teddy bear, the cat, the dog, just so that it doesn't fall off so easily. Now, but for this, we're actually going to have, that's going to be the tip of the tail. This part is going to sit on, and if you remember, we've already put a little bit of glue. So all we're going to do is just pop that on. You can give it a little tweak if you want, so it curls a fraction. So that's your tail. And then once you've got your tail on, if you give your hands a bit of a wipe, because you're going to get some white paste now and make the eyes this as well. So 2 balls, they are about 3 or 4 mil, no bigger, just in the white. I haven't put CMC in these, they don't need it. So into a ball. And then I just want to roll one once across my finger so it becomes a bit more oval in shape. And just very carefully pick this up. You might find if it's not too heavy, it might even stick to your finger because of the fat in the paste. And then because you've put glue on the eye hole already, it should come off because that's wetter than your finger is greasy. So just a little oval shape onto the model. And give it a little press until it enlarges and kind of looks a little bit more stuck onto the face. Otherwise it's going to, if you just stick them on as balls, they look like they're kind of pinging. Okay, so that's the profile, that's the front. And at this stage as well, it's a good idea to just make another little hole, which will be where the black, the eye centre, the pupil will go. So just scrape off the excess glue on your brush and just be as precise as you can. A finer brush is good for this, but as precise as you can, get a small amount of glue into that eye hole. The sugar pearls are 2 millimetre in diameter, and they're a little bit like poppy seeds. And you should be able to find 2 the same size. So if you've got that, you can use those. You still need to glue, but you can position, pick those up between your fingers and put them on. But I'm going to show you how to make them just using black paste. This is very similar to pulling out a small piece of paste for these little toes that we made. So we just take a slightly bigger ball of black paste. I always buy my black paste because it just takes so much colouring to try and do it yourself. if you do want to colour the paste yourself, just pick the smallest amount possible that you need. And then if you're using black, add dark brown to it and you'll get a better colour. What I'm going to do is just take my finger and thumb right to the tip end, pull that off, round, make it into a ball, and then drop it down. And match the ball to a second one. Okay, and when you've got two that are the same. Oh, sorry. Let's get those. Oh, goodness me, where am I? It's a new camera angle, that's it. Let's just drop that one down there. Let's come up here. My paste is a little bit dry. They are crumbling. So we'll go again. Ball, roll. Just get two the same size. Takes a few goes to get there. Try not to make these too big because he looks like he's wearing sunglasses. So I've got one here, just stick it up, it should stick to your finger, and then you can transfer that directly onto your eye and then come away. Try not to fiddle with it. That way, if it is a little bit on the wet side because of the glue, you're not going to smudge your face. If you find that you do get a drip because you've got too much glue on there, while it's still wet, you can clean it off with a brush with some clear alcohol, just gin or vodka. And if you say I've got like a bleed around here, I could clean that up just a little bit. So you have your dampened brush, clean it, then clean the brush again, clear alcohol again, clean. You can use rose water as well if you prefer not to use alcohol. Water doesn't really work because it will kind of eat into, it's too wet. Okay. So that might help if you've got an area that's particularly wet. And there you have your heffalump. Okay, so there you have your little elephant. And hope you enjoyed making him. If you've got any questions, please do get in touch with me, hannah@inspiredcreations.uk.com, and I'll say goodbye for now. See you again soon. Bye.